Good morning, gang. So, kind of wanted to go into a little bit more on yesterday's video because obviously finances aren't something that you can touch on in 10 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever yesterday's video was. And, that's the be all end all to it. So I kind of wanted to explain a little bit about the finance side and how it correlates to what's currently going on in the real world. All right. And so I guess the best place to start here is just to refresh everybody's mind of, good old Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum and their comment of, in 2030, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Okay. Now, to kind of put this in context, and you all know this, okay, rich people can never they're so narcissistic. They can never have enough. You're the billionaire boys club, as you want to call it. You see the Forbes list, who's the richest man in the world or whatever it is. It's Bezos or it's Gates or it's Buffett or it's some prince in the Middle East or something like that. And you know damn well over the dinner conversation with their families, they're all going, damn, I'm number 2 this year. I've got to figure out some way to be number 1. Okay. It doesn't matter that you've got, $700 billion in the bank. You're not number 1 on that list. I mean, that's the narcissism that exists within them. All right. So how does this portray into everything that's going on in the world right now? All right. We all know about come January 1st, roughly 20 million people are going to be kicked out on the streets unless, the laws are changed because they can't pay all this back rent that was given to them. They've got to pay it, landlords, whatever it is. And this is the idea, at least in my mind, of what I see of the World Economic Forum, okay? They want to completely crush economies. They want to, okay? Because if they can kick all these people out, put them out in the streets, and then the people are desperate, you lose your house, you lose your apartment building, any of the landowners, the property owners or whatever have lost all their assets, their value and their assets. So now these billionaires can come in and buy all those assets up on the cheap, okay? And then they can, according to the World Economic Forum 2030, okay, you'll own nothing. Now they can rent it back to you. And you think, oh no, that'll never happen. All right, so let me give you this and kind of where I think this kind of comes from. If you go back to the housing crisis of 2008, all right, everybody knows that there were, people getting foreclosed upon left and right. And back when I lived in Vegas, we bought the house there in, 2016, I think it was. And our next door neighbors had bought their house in 2009. Okay, right in the midst of the housing crisis. It was a nice neighborhood. They were $200,000 houses thereabouts. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was your typical middle-class neighborhood. They had told me the story about them offering to buy their house at $98,000, and the offer was accepted. And the mortgage company wouldn't finance them for less than $100K, so they had to actually up their own bid so they could get the financing on the house. So they wound up buying the house for $100K. And in 2017, 2018, when we were talking about this, I don't remember exactly which year it was, but I knew what we had just paid for our house, which was very similar, okay? And it was $250,000. So they had bought something at 100 when the market sucked, okay? And then when the market was back to reality, gee, their house was now worth $250,000. Okay, not a bad return on investment. We knew the same thing from a condo that we bought in Vegas to use as an Airbnb property. And like when you're buying any property, you can go look at all the sale history of it, okay? And we had seen this condo actually sold for $290,000 in, I think it was 2012 or something like this, somewhere thereabouts. And in, what'd you say? 2008. 2008, okay. It must have been right before the crash or something like that. But eventually it was down to $12,000. Now imagine that loss, okay? You know, you bought something for 290 and now it's worth 12. I mean, when we got it around 70 and that was it, you know. So, I mean, but then again, this was 2017. You think, all right, how does this come into play with what the World Economic Forum and Bill Gates and all his cronies and everything are thinking? Well, think of the cash that they have on hand. They're not talking about buying a condo or an apartment building or a neighborhood. They're going, I can buy an entire city or an entire state on the cheap, okay? And then I can dole it out to the people as I see fit. I was talking to Mrs. Pinball, and she was telling me about the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. Back then, you could have bought an apartment. Most everybody in Moscow lives in apartments. There aren't any houses. I mean, it's 17 million people city. But you could have bought an apartment for about $5,000 after the Soviet Union collapsed. Those same apartments now are selling for about $500,000. Again, not a bad return on investment, okay? You know, 100 times your money in the course of 30 years, okay? Sign me up. Let me buy 3. You know, my kids will never have to work again in their life. You know, so this is what I'm saying, that this whole World Economic Forum, the key word in World Economic Forum is economic, okay? They're trying to destroy the economies. That's why they want all these businesses to close. That's why, you know, they're happy seeing that. They're happy seeing all us, you know, lunch bucket Joes here, you know, struggling, not paying mortgages, kicked out of, because they know when it's all done, they're going to be the white knight, come right in, go, oh yes, Mr. Jones, I'll get you out of your mortgage here. You know, I'll pay the last $50,000 on the $250,000 that you owed originally, but I'm going to take your house. I'll let you stay in it, but you're going to have to pay me rent that was the equivalent of what your mortgage is, but I'll own the property now. Okay, it's either that or you get foreclosed on and you have nowhere to live. That's what they're looking at doing. But like I said, it's not just a house, an apartment complex. They can do this in entire cities. I mean, imagine if you take all the apartments in New York, and God knows how many there are. I certainly don't. Or Chicago, pick a city, all right? And if you can go in and buy those for, you know, $1 instead of $1,000, or use the example from the Soviet Union, you know, 1/1000th of the price, you know, so $1 instead of $1,000. I guess the same thing there. Okay. You're going to, gee, I own the Bronx. I own Brooklyn. You know, whatever it would be. You know, obviously there's parts of it that you don't want. You know, you don't want the south side of Chicago. You just bulldoze the whole place. Okay, whatever it would be. But that's what they're looking for economically to be able to do all this, at least in my opinion. Because, you know, if they can destroy the economies, then they can buy everything on the cheap, and then they're the great savior and comes in and goes, now I'll give you a house, and now you can farm the land, and kind of what I told you before. You know, how communism worked. You could farm the land and everything went to the collective, whereby whichever one of these billionaires takes all the collective, and in your spare time, you can garden for your family on this little portion or whatever. But everything else is going to go to the collective, i.e. him, for his decision to, and you get 2 cabbages and you get 3 tomatoes. And that's it, okay? It's no different than seeing all the comments about, same thing, Agenda 2030. We'll be eating everything plant-based protein. Why? Because it's a lot easier to teach people how to grow vegetables than it is to teach them how to, you know, raise livestock, raise cattle, raise sheep, raise goats, you know, whatever it would be, chickens, rabbits, pick one, okay? And it's a lot cheaper, you know. Seeds are reproducing, no big deal. You don't have to really feed them. It's a little bit of water and off and running you go, you know, fertilizers or whatever it is. They'll figure that one out. You know, they only think halfway, but, you know, it's not like they're going, oh, well, you got to buy animal feed and you got dewormers and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So they're going, well, that's all stuff we have to spend. We just want to not spend any money, have them do all the work, and we get all the profits. That's what they're trying to do, guys, okay? That's the economic side of it. So when people were saying in the comments yesterday about, maybe precious metals won't be used for barter or something like that. Yeah, absolutely they will, okay? If this all pans out the way the World Economic Forum wants to do it, it's not going to last for 2 weeks. And as I said in one of the comments the other day, you think about Venezuela, okay? And up until about 10 years ago, Venezuela was the richest country in South America, all right? As of today, 1 million Venezuelan bolivar, okay, the currency, 1 million bolivar is the equivalent of 92 cents in the United States, okay? You've all seen pictures online or wherever of stacks and stacks and stacks of money, and people light it on fire. Why? Because it has no value anymore, okay? So, those are things that you need to think about when you're looking at the financial sides of things and what's actually trying to do. Worry about a little bit of the bigger picture. This is why I've said in videos, get your bills paid off, get everything taken care of, own everything you have, because, at least that way, the only thing you got left to pay on it is the taxes. They can't just foreclose out from under you. I mentioned in a video a couple of weeks ago about the way state constitutions talk about property taxes and things like that. So these are things that you kind of need to prep for on the financial side of things. Kind of look out just a little bit more and go, what could be their motive for doing this? And how can I prepare to defend against it? All right. Because the easiest way to bring down a society is economically, food economics or financial economics. And as we're all seeing this year, they're trying to hit us with both. Okay. Thoughts for the day. Wanted to kind of follow up a little bit on yesterday, what the plan is, but that's what I wanted to share with you all this morning. Have a great one, y'all. Pinball out.